Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to be heading billions of miles away to the edge of our solar system, to Pluto and its largest moon, Charon.
Sounds chilly.
Definitely bundle up. Now we've got some incredible new research based on simulations all about how these two might have had a pretty dramatic beginning.
Oh, this I gotta hear.
It all comes from a January 2025 article from the Southwest Research Institute titled, get this, How Pluto and Charon Were Born from a Giant Collision.
Wow. A giant collision, huh?
Yeah. So picture this. You're out on the edge of our solar system, billions of miles from the sun. It's cold, dark.
And things are about to get really interesting.
Exactly. But before we get to the collision, what's really fascinating is the size ratio between Pluto and Charon. I mean, Charon is proportionally huge.
Yeah, it's almost like our own Earth and Moon system.
Right. And that's not something you see very often. Think about it. Most moons are much smaller compared to their planets.
Like those tiny potato-shaped moons around Mars. Or even the moons of the giant planets. Proportionally, they're much smaller.
Exactly. So this unusual size ratio between Pluto and Charon got scientists thinking something big must happen.
Right, something extraordinary.
And that brings us to the prevailing theory, a giant impact. A massive collision between two objects way back in the early solar system.
It's like a cosmic billiards game out there.
I know, right? Okay, so we've got these two objects, Proto-Pluto and Proto-Charon, hurtling towards each other. Are we talking like a head-on collision that just smashed them together?
Well, older simulations, they kind of suggested that. They treated the colliding materials like fluids.
So like everything just kind of melted and merged together?
Yeah, but the problem was, if everything simply merged, how did we end up with two distinct bodies?
Right. You'd think it'd be like one big blob.
Exactly.
Something's missing from that picture.
It is. And that's where these new models come in.
Oh, okay. So what's different about these new models?
Well, they take into account something crucial. They take into account the strength of materials, like rock and ice.
At those crazy low temperatures out in the Kuiper Belt.
Exactly. And you know what? This leads to a totally different scenario.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
This is where things get really interesting. We call it a kiss and capture.
Kiss and capture? That sounds almost romantic. For something so violent, I've heard of this. So how does that work?
Okay, so picture this. Proto-Pluto and Proto-Charon, these early versions of Pluto and its moon, they collide with tremendous force, obviously.
Yeah, I'm picturing it.
But instead of shattering or, like we said before, completely merging, they stick together.
Stick together. Okay, so like a cosmic snowman, kind of.
Precisely. This snowman-shaped object, it starts to rotate.
Spin, spin, spin.
Yeah. But then, get this.
Okay.
Because of the complex forces at play, Charon gets pushed away from Pluto.
It's like they had a little dance and then...
Exactly, a cosmic dance.
Yeah.
And Charon ends up settling into a stable orbit.
Wow, so it's not a hit and run. And it's not a full-on merger. This kiss and capture, it's a whole new scenario.
It is. It's unlike anything we see with other moon formations in our solar system. And what's really amazing is that not much material seems to have been lost to space.
So where did all that rock and ice go after this kiss?
Well, it didn't split evenly. The simulations show that Pluto, being the bigger one, grabbed more of the rock.
Makes sense. Kind of like a bully.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could say that. And Charon, well, it ended up with a pretty even split, about 50-50 rock and ice.
Interesting. So they each got a piece of the pie. But are we talking about any old rock and ice here?
Actually, this is where it gets really cool. The models suggest something amazing.
Okay, lay it on me.
Okay, so those ancient structures, for those original Kuiper Belt objects, they might still be preserved inside both Pluto and Charon.
Wow, hold on. So we could be talking about material that's billions of years old, potentially from the very beginning of our solar system. Now, that's what I call a time capsule. So this kiss and capture is more than just a love story. It's a window into the past. But wait a minute, we're forgetting Pluto's other 4 moons, the little ones. Did this giant impact affect them too?
Oh, almost certainly. I mean, the simulations suggest all that debris from the Pluto-Charon collision probably played a role in how those smaller moons formed.
Huh. So they're like little souvenirs from that ancient cosmic dance. But what does all this mean? Why is this kiss and capture so important?
Well, it leads to some pretty exciting possibilities, like, hidden oceans.
Oceans on Pluto? Really, I always thought it was just a frozen wasteland way out there.
That's what we used to think. But the timing of the impact, that's what's crucial here. If it happened early enough in Pluto's history, it would generate a ton of heat.
So all that energy from the collision.
Could have melted some of that ice.
Wow. So even if Pluto was cold at first.
The impact and the tidal forces, as Pluto and Charon separated, all that could have generated enough heat for an ocean to form over time, of course.
An ocean trapped under Pluto's icy surface.
Exactly. Kind of like what we think might be on moons like Europa and Enceladus.
That's mind-blowing. An ocean billions of miles from the sun. I mean, could this mean life?
Well, it's certainly a tantalizing possibility, right? I mean, we know life can exist in some pretty extreme environments.
Yeah, I mean, just look at those ecosystems around hydrothermal vents deep down in our own oceans. No sunlight, but teeming with life.
Exactly. So if Pluto have a hidden ocean, who knows? Something might be lurking down there.
This is changing everything I thought I knew about Pluto and the outer solar system. And remember earlier you said Pluto and Charon aren't unique? What did you mean?
Well, think about the Kuiper Belt. Out of the 10 largest objects out there, 8 of them have similar sizes and compositions to Pluto and Charon.
So if Pluto and Charon formed through this kiss and capture, and they might have oceans, does that mean other Kuiper Belt objects could too?
It's definitely possible. It suggests that giant impacts might be, a common way for these bigger Kuiper Belt objects to form.
And if that's the case?
Then a lot of them could have hidden oceans too.
Wow. So we could have a whole bunch of ocean worlds
just
waiting to be discovered out there in the Kuiper Belt. This changes everything. It's not just icy rocks and dwarf planets anymore.
It's amazing, right? The Kuiper Belt. This research shows just how dynamic and ever-changing our solar system really is.
We think of space as this cold, static, empty place.
But this research, it paints a whole new picture.
It does. It's a good reminder. The universe is full of surprises.
It is. And you know what? There's still so much we don't know.
Every new discovery opens up more questions, more possibilities.
Exactly, which is what makes it so fascinating.
Speaking of new discoveries, this kiss and capture scenario, this kiss and capture really changes how we think about Pluto and Charon. It's not just some random crash,
Nope, that's not matter.
It's more like a delicate dance that shaped their destinies, their compositions, and maybe even those hidden oceans.
It's amazing to think about, right, how these big events can shape entire worlds.
It makes you wonder if this kiss and capture model could explain other things too, not just in the Kuiper Belt.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about how planets and moons form. We think it's this simple process, but...
This research shows it can be way more complex, more nuanced.
Exactly. And it makes you realize there are probably so many other strange formation stories out there.
Just waiting to be discovered. It makes you wonder, what other secrets are hiding out there in the vastness of space?
It's humbling, isn't it?
It really is. We've come so far in understanding the universe.
But there's still so much we don't know.
I mean, who knows? Maybe one day we'll send a probe to Pluto's hidden ocean and see what's down there.
Now, that would be something. Imagine finding life in those hidden oceans.
It would change everything, how we think about life in the universe.
Totally. And it just shows how important it is to keep exploring our solar system and beyond.
Well, after this deep dive, I'm definitely looking at Pluto and Charon differently. They're not just these cold, distant worlds anymore.
Yeah, they're dynamic, complex, full of potential.
Exactly. It's amazing how one research article can change our whole perspective.
That's the beauty of science, right? It's always evolving.
Always pushing the boundaries. Well said. So for all our listeners, next time you look up at the night sky, remember Pluto, that tiny, faint point of light.
It's more than meets the eye.
It is. It's a survivor of a cosmic dance, a possible home for hidden oceans, a symbol of all the mysteries the universe holds.
And never underestimate the power of a cosmic kiss.
Right. It might lead to the most incredible discoveries. Well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey to the edge of our solar system.
It's been my pleasure.
And until next time, keep exploring. Keep asking questions.